Alright, you can see we're not out in the garage today. We're here inside the guitar cave. And this is actually my next favorite place to be. I've got some work to do on this Epiphone Les Paul. I've got some fret dents and I've got some worn frets just for repeated bending in the same sweet spots over and over again. So we're going to go through, we're going to level these frets, we're going to crown them, and we're going to polish them, okay? Before we get started, I just want to say a quick thank you to all my subscribers and people who watch my videos. And if you find this video helpful, give me that thumbs up and don't forget to hit that subscribe button along with the bell to receive notifications of future videos, alright? Let's go ahead and get this thing taken care of so I can rip it up today. Alright, the first thing we need to do is support the neck, and this is not the way to do it. This is fine when you're changing your strings and that type of thing, but as we're sanding these frets down, we're going to be applying a slight amount of pressure, and that's going to cause this neck to bow slightly, which is going to cause that leveling process to be inaccurate. So we need to support the entire neck. Now, I don't have a jig set up for this process, so we're going to have to improvise. Alright, you can see what I've done here is I just took a blanket and it's supporting the neck from the nut to the body. Is it super precise? I would say no, but it's certainly better than having a single point of contact like the headstock or the stand like we had it. The idea is if you're applying pressure, you don't want to create a situation where this neck is going to bow, okay? So while it's not great, it's better than having a single point of contact up here on the neck, all right? Let's go ahead and flatten the neck out, and we're going to remove our truss rod cover, and I'm going to mark that off first. Alright, we're going to start by marking the truss rod here, and this is going to allow us to get back to the same neck relief when we put it back together. I like the way it plays. That's not to say we aren't going to have to make adjustments, but this will get us in the same starting place. Okay, so I just took a marked the truss rod, marked the wood. Now we need to flatten out the neck. Alright, next we need to use our slotted straight edge here. Now these are fairly inexpensive. I can link to them down below, but you could even make one if you wanted to. And we're going to look for gaps in the neck, okay? And I'm going to use a flashlight on the other side, and I'm getting right down at neck level, and I'm just looking for where the gaps are. Now, if you have a gap in the middle, that means that your neck is bowed forward. That means you need to go clockwise with your Allen wrench. I have a 4mm Allen wrench here at the end of the truss rod. Hopefully you can see that. Okay, so you'll want to pull your neck back by tightening the truss rod. And if you have gaps on the ends, okay, that means that it's pulled back too far. So what you want to do is you want to go counterclockwise to loosen it, okay, which is what I have. All right, so let me get this done, and we're going to just try to get this as flat as possible, okay, before we start leveling. I'm pretty good there, just a little bit more. So you can use a tool like this to check your frets, and there's just 4 different lengths because you always want to hit 3 frets. All right, when you get down here, you're going to use the smallest one. Just check across, and you're trying to wiggle it. Essentially, when you get to an uneven area like that, you can actually hear it. And again, it's only on the high side. And then when you get to this section, we've got to switch it to the longer portion of the straight edge. Right there. Okay, otherwise they're not too bad. I think I have up here around the 5. I also have another area. Oh, there's here. Okay. So can you hear it? Alright, so that's what you're looking for. That's how you use these tools. I'll link to this down below also. A lot of times you can find a package deal with each of these tools, but they're handy to have, alright? So next thing I'm going to do is going to mask off the fretboard. I probably won't show you that process. I'm just going to use that sort of painter's masking tape. Alright, with the neck masked off, I'm just going to take a Sharpie here and paint the tops of all the frets. Alright, next I'm going to use a 12-inch radius sanding block with a fine grit adhesive backing. Now, if you don't know what your neck radius is, you can buy a gauge set like this. These are really inexpensive. Again, I'm going to link to all these parts down below. We would have had to have done this before we put the tape on, but essentially it measures your your neck radius, okay, on the fretboard. Now, some guitars do have a compound radius, so you have to be aware of that before you start, okay? So with this, we're just going to go nice and slow. I'm not going to apply too much pressure, and I'm going to take long swipes with it, okay? Up and down the neck. And what we're looking for is we're going to be taking that Sharpie off, okay, and we know which frets are bad down here on the 14, up here on the 5. We've got some dents here, so we're just going to be looking for slowly the removal of the Sharpie, and you don't want to go too far, okay? All right, let's take a quick look before we go too much further. What you want to be looking for is marker on the top of a fret, like right there on the 12. Now, if we take our fret rocker, or our neck check, or whatever you want to call it, mine's an off-brand. It's not just a, sure enough, it's a little bit low there. Just that one spot. Okay? The other thing you want to be looking for are the fret dents. If you're trying to take care of them, you can see them like right there. There's remnants of fret dents. Now, I'm not going to be too awfully concerned. I don't want to get them right down to nothing because we also have to polish. Like there's a pretty good one right there. Okay, so I'm going to take the sanding block and run up this a couple more times. The other thing I did do is I covered up the pickup here because I don't want to hit that with the sanding block, and I also don't want to get the metal shavings down inside. You know, because there are magnets down that would stick to it. I have to clean it out. Alright, next I'm going to check the entire neck here before we go any further. Across every fret. Basically, I'm laying it flat on the edge on each fret, sort of on both sides in the middle, and trying to rock it. So far, I think we're good. Sometimes it feels like it moves if you don't get it flat on the edge, so you want to kind of lay it on. I'm doing it quickly here too, so. Something to be aware of when you're actually sanding the upper frets, and obviously your first and second frets, they're not getting as much of the sanding block as the middle frets because you're getting a full pass with the middle ones, and these end ones are not. So you may have to kind of give them a little extra attention, which is not a big deal. You just have to be aware of it, okay? I was sliding the sanding block further down because I put the tape down here, but this top one doesn't get as much. All right, next thing we need to do is put a crown on these things. Okay, we're going back to the Sharpie here, you know, paint the tops of all the frets again. And when we use the crowning file, we're looking for something different this time. We're watching to ensure that we're not taking the top off the frets. We just want to crown them, leaving a thin strip of the marker on the top of the frets. Alright, so I'm just using this Hosco crowning file here. And what you want to do is just be aware of the radius, obviously. And you want to kind of take a bite into the fret, but you don't want to take any top off the fret. So you want to have a thin strip of marker left over. Alright, I'm just trying to give you an idea of what we're going for here. You see that there's a thin line of marker on each fret across the top. That's what you're going for. That means that you remove material from the sides, but not the top, okay? Because you don't want to ruin your level. And then, of course, you could go through and check every fret with your fret rocker again, and I've already done that, okay? Time to polish them. Alright, to polish the frets, at least initially, I'm going to use these Hosco abrasive erasers. They seem pretty cool. I've never used them. I usually use a fine emery cloth and then some steel wool. This is 180 grit, 400 grit, and 1000 grit. We're going to start with the 180. I've already taken a couple of passes on some of the frets, and they seem to work pretty well. Alright, I've worked my way up to the 1000 grit eraser here, and I gotta say, these things work pretty well. I've got a pretty nice polish on the frets. I'm happy with it overall. So what I'm going to do is just kind of finish this up, do a final polish on these things. I'm going to put the truss rod back where it was, put some strings on it, see how it plays. I may need to do some final adjustments on the intonation and action. Hey, thanks for watching. Give me that thumbs up if you found the video helpful. Leave questions and comments below, and have fun and have a great day.